All right, if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Weekend right here on Enterprise Television. Let's move to our main conversation for today. The Independent National Electoral Commission, Inec, has stated that it is capable of conducting elections for the 774 local government areas councils in Nigeria. This was conveyed by Inec Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu during a briefing to the Senate and House of Representatives Joint Committee on Electoral Matters. The briefing addressed Inec's preparations for the upcoming Edo and Ondo state governorship elections and its relationship with state independent electoral commissions. And also, since the Supreme Court granted financial autonomy to local government areas, there has been a debate about whether SAICs should be dissolved to allow Inec to oversee local government elections, thereby reducing state governors' influence over LGAs. Professor Yakubu informed the lawmakers that Inec could take on this responsibility if the National Assembly amends the 1999 Constitution to transfer the authority to conduct local government elections from SIECs to Inec. He emphasized that while Inec currently handles national and state elections, it is also capable of conducting local government elections as demonstrated by its management of elections in the Federal Capital Territory. However, such a change would require a constitutional amendment to grant Inec the necessary authority. Stay with us in the studios to do justice to this particular trendy but very important topic. Emeka Matunago, thank you, Emeka, for hanging on and talking about what we will be, of course, discussing today. So let's go get into the crux of the matter here. Inec is saying they've got the capability, just like Professor Mahmood Yakubu did just say that he knows that they can do it and take that responsibility of state to do justice because they have done it before, especially with the FCET. Do you think Mahmood Yakubu has got the temerity to say what he just said here?
Well, I would first of all ask Mahmood Yakubu to go and look at INEC's website, where he clearly admitted the lapses of INEC. And I'll ask him a question: have those lapses been corrected? Because election after election after election in Nigeria, we have felt shortchanged by the manner of conduct of these just routine exercises, just elections. And INEC will need to shut down the whole country, shut down the whole state, take billions in budget, and yet you don't have, elections that meet minimum global standards. So how can INEC now say it can conduct local government elections? It's not his business. Let INEC try and even sort out its own responsibilities of conducting federal and state elections. Because, you see, we just like to make too much noise, too much of a noise about nothing in this country. The Constitution puts local governments under the states. It's clear. What the Supreme Court did was to read the Supreme Court. And let's avoid this false narrative. The Supreme Court did not give financial autonomy to the states. Section 162, subsection 3 of the Constitution says that funds from the federal account shall be shared to federal, state, and local governments. It's clear in English language. But what we had was that states were observing this in the breach, and then the Supreme Court just merely reminded them of what was written in black and white. The Supreme Court didn't grant anything. That's what I've been telling people who were just, I said, please go and read clearly. Because they say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. How many of us care to read the Constitution that governs our space, our geographical space? So, to that extent, the local governments still remain under the states. Now, the enforcement of these financial, regulation of this regulation as stipulated in the Constitution and other accompanying statutes has been the job, ought to be the job of the state houses of assembly. But what do you have? You can as well have a constitutional amendment and scrap the state houses of assembly. Yes, because they've all become errand boys for the governors. Just like you have a rubber stamp, you had a rubber stamp National Assembly since 2015, subservient to the executive. That is where the problem lies. That you hear governors are stealing this, governors are stealing this. Actually, there is a substituting court judgment that state houses of assembly have the power to investigate alleged financial breaches in the state, by the executive. But what do we have? They'll come out and tell you that there's no cause for alarm, there's no problem. So we don't need to mix up issues. We've known from time that local government chairmen don't have autonomy. But how come some days ago a former local government chairman in Rivers State, 11 houses said to belong to him were seized by the state government? How did the local government chairman acquire 11 houses? From where? But these things are clear to the eyes. They are there for the eyes to see.
So don't you think that's the reason why Professor Mahmoud Yakub is coming out to say that maybe these are shortfalls that come from state independent electoral commissions, and therefore INEC itself can carry out a free and fair election in some of these LGAs so as to avert some of these issues that you've talked about, where the wrong people get into the right positions?
Like they say, all politics is local. We're in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's what we call this nation. So you must practice federalism. And to that extent, the Constitution devolves power to the states. You cannot now have, we've been talking about the unitary system introduced by Decree 34 of 1966, I believe, 1966, by then head of state, General Agui, Thomas Agui Ronsi. Oh, people have condemned it, and that it is. But we have found that unitary system to be so sweet in using to oppress Nigerians. If you say the Decree 34 was wrong, then why are you now practicing what Decree 34 purports to, proclaim? So that is where the problem is. We don't need a unitary system of government in this country. We need to devolve power to the states and the local government. We must practice federalism properly, in reality. So you see, if INEC is talking about conducting local government elections, then I feel that INEC is not sufficiently engaged.
It's not sufficiently engaged.
Yes, they are very, very largely idle. So if you look at the enabling act for INEC, it specifies the responsibilities of INEC, one of which is voter education.
Oh, okay.
Every election you have voided ballots. Why? Because you see, when people want to vote, sometimes they don't even know which finger to use, to vote. So some will use their thumbs, and then the imprint will run across two boxes. And we now say that if we conduct a mock election today, that you will not have many voided votes. How sufficiently educated are Nigerians about issues around voting, time for voting, time for accreditation, and all of those things? Do Nigerians know that they ought to go, that there are times when INEC displays the voter register at its various offices in the local governments, and that they should go and check their names? Before the last elections, it was a Herculean task for people to get their voter cards. It took me a whole day and altercations with INEC officials for me to get my voter card. It was a whole day's rigor. There are some people who walked away and said this is not worth it. Has INEC simplified the process?
So these are issues that you feel
there are many issues
should be considered.
There are the IREV that shut down because INEC said there were thousands of attacks. Has INEC solidified it? The beavers, has INEC asked the National Assembly to make beavers and to put beavers and IREV in the Constitution and in the Electoral Act? Has INEC done that? And you can go on and on and on and on. Delineation of constituencies. What has INEC done about it? Between 2023, in fact, there's what is called continuous voter registration. Is INEC engaging in it? People keep clocking 18 every year, which is the legal voting age, minimum voting age. Has INEC built a synergy with the National Population Commission and then the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, in terms of linking INEC to the database so that when anybody clocks 18, it drops into INEC's portal. And then, of course, the NIN, National Identification Number, contains your name, maybe your residence, your phone, your contacts, and all of that. Doesn't INEC know that it's supposed to actually write those people on your birthday and call? INEC is supposed to call. They should have a call center and say, happy birthday, ABC. Welcome you to the club of eligible voters in Nigeria. Please go to the nearest registration center to get your voter card. Does INEC does not know that it's part of continuous voter registration? So you have not solved your own problems. You are looking into local government. Yes, I know governors engage in coronation of their lackeys, as local government. No problem. You see, you don't solve a sickness by introducing another variant of that sickness. What do? You use a sample from it and you deal with it. You attack it at the root cause. And what is the root cause? Why do people fight so much to get into public office? It's because of the resources. If you tighten the screws on looting and all that, nobody. You will beg people to run for election. There was a city in America, I read one story, some time ago. The city council's officials had to go door to door begging people. There's the office of the mayor is vacant now. Nobody wanted to run. Nobody, even the last mayor was a lady who just volunteered until she got tired. Because they just kept electing her until she got tired. And then they just said, okay, please, they were begging people to run for mayor. So when you deal with that, when you find a solution to that proclivity to steal, there might be proclivity, is a human need. But when you block the tap, you lock the tap, and people cannot go into the local government to steal. Let me tell you, governors, the State Independent Electoral Commission, the CX, will conduct credible, free and fair elections at local government.
Now, talking about conducting credible, free and fair election, especially with all of the submissions, fantastic, insightful submissions you have made, especially with this continuous voter registration and all. Do you think with all of this information that you have, that Professor Mahmood Yakubu has got the capacity to lead INEC onwards?
Well, with due respect to him, he's a professor. And I believe for a university to confer a professorship on any individual, the university has found that person to be fit and worthy, to bear that title. When we graduated from school, before, as we have been awarded our degrees, the university, there was a citation. You have been found worthy in learning and character. Fine. Whatever you do with that later is your personal problem. If you now make yourself unworthy in learning and character, that's your personal issue. But with due respect to Professor Mahmood Yakubu, of course, he has been an administrator. He was executive secretary of the, Education Trust Fund, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe he possesses the capacity to, handle INEC. Yes, there have been shortcomings, but one thing Mahmood Yakubu needs to deal with is is the way he responds to issues. He's usually too combative.
Okay.
He's usually too combative. He takes issues personally. If people criticize you, it is because they expect you to do better. That people are coming out to protest. It's even the government should even thank them. Should even thank Nigerians. Oh, thank you for coming out to protest, because there are things you don't know. You're not God. You can't know everything. There are things you may not know. So people come out to protest. So things have gone this bad. Oh, so this road is bad. Oh, so school feeding. Some schools didn't get food. The conditional grants are supposed to give people. So people didn't get those conditional grants. How come? Then you cannot say, okay, we have heard you. We have heard you. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. What are the people of your end bad governance? But when you say people should not protest, what you are saying is that the other side, you are flipping it. Continue bad governance. And so we open a hashtag for you. Hashtag sustain bad governance. So what I'm saying in essence is that Mahmoud Yakubu should sit down and look, get advice from experts, all the experts he has around him, and then he can reach out to his colleagues in other countries to find out what are the global best practices in conducting elections. Because voting, casting your ballot, is not even as significant as going to get your voter card. Casting your ballot is just a routine exercise now. There are countries where people start voting even before the polls are open through mailing ballots.
Mailing ballots, yeah.
So do they need a Mahmoud Yakubu to come and tell them how to, because there is continuous voter registration. So, like Americans who live abroad, they can vote from anywhere. We have been talking about diaspora voting. Yes, let me add to it. Diaspora voting is one of the demands of the protesters. Why hasn't the National Assembly done a review the same way they speedily passed the Minimum Wage Act? Why have they not speedily passed a review of the Electoral Act to include diaspora voting? Independent candidacy. Why not put it? You decided that, okay, let's go to the Supreme Court over the way states have been managing affairs in local governments, and then have been managing their finances, right? And then they are appropriating their finances. Good. Now, how about making sure that parties do not shortchange people who are eager to go into public office? Independent candidacy. Why has that not been implemented? So you find out that Inec has actually not understood that, it has a huge responsibilities.
And Emeka, surprisingly, you talked about global best practice in electioneering, and when you take a look at the United States of America, they're about to go into their elections. It's an election year for them. Whenever election year comes for America, it's usually like a global interest by everyone. We all want to know about it. We all want to know what's happening. We all want to know about what the candidates are doing, what the election is, how it is going to be, and all that. How do you think the INEC could better learn from that so as to make our elections look such entertaining, at the same time deliver on what it's supposed to do at the end of the day?
Don't get carried away by the entertainment. Politicians in America, politicians in Nigeria. So everybody trying to, outdo the other. Of course, you look at it that there are still issues with the American electoral system. There are still complaints. In every country, there are still complaints that the electoral
votes that you talked about.
Yeah, even the voting machines. Even the voting machines.
Yeah.
Yes, even the voting machines. Then, there are different allegations here and there. Then about the flexibility of the electoral, of nomination process. You heard Donald Trump saying that the DNC, the Democrats, should refund their campaign expenses, by allowing them to campaign against Biden, and all of a sudden changing, to Kamala Harris in the middle of the game. Of course, that's politics, because Donald Trump suddenly finds that he is no longer the underdog. Kamala Harris is the underdog. in terms of age, Donald Trump is the older candidate. In terms of so many things, there are things weighed against him. So the point is this: we are not asking for the moon on a platter. What we are saying is the things that need to be done, do them. The IRF and the beavers, let them be put in the Electoral Act and in the Constitution. Then I will also address ASU. ASU keeps giving reasons for going on strike. I went to university 4 years, a course of 4 years. I spent 5 years. Anytime I think about it, I feel bad. There are children who have gone through 7 years for a 4-year course. Why? So I also address ASU. Carry out an advocacy campaign. Help Mahmoud Yakubu. Carry out an advocacy campaign. Talk to your members who are politicians to, read the figures, that they should stop it. We saw the pressure that was mounted on Professor Nena, Oti, who was the returning officer for the Abia State governorship election. So much pressure. And she didn't back down. But in other states, we saw what people engaged in. I like the response, in fairness to Inec, I like the way they handled the Adamawa debacle. But the fact that the Regional Electoral Commission in Adamawa, who tried brazenly to, thwart the electoral process, the fact that he's not in jail, I feel bad. And so many Nigerians feel bad.
Because that's the responsibility of Mahmoud Yakubu.
Yes, to do that. Because there are some Inec officials who are alleged to have compromised the elections in 2015. They're in jail. Some of them are in jail. So that Adamawa wreck, INEC must get the security agencies to find him, get him prosecuted and jailed. That will send a strong message to others who have such inclinations.
Very true. Well, that is just about the time we have. Of course, Nigerians would not forget February 25th, 2023 in a hurry. And knowing what happened, what transpired, and what went down, and the results, of course, that came out of that particular election. And I think it's an open sesame for the INEC chair, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, to learn one or two from such mistakes and try to avoid them in the future. I'd love to say thank you to Meka Madunago for being part of our show today, and of course making greater sense of everything we had to talk about today. But most importantly, we'd love to say thank you. Thank you to you for giving us your time whenever we call. Please do well to visit our website at enterprisetvnews.com, and also like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Ikwebike. I'll see you for yet another great time. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.